Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Cochran Doctrine with me, Eric Cochran. Please like and subscribe to my channel down below. I am sorry that it has been a while since my last upload. If you can see, I am sitting in a new setting. I moved into a new townhouse last month, July, and have been busy getting set up for over the past month now. Prior to that, I was of course preparing to move out of where I was living previously, but I am back and am ready to vlog some more. So I've been steadily warming up to my political issues, beginning first with immigration and then the history of slavery in this country, and as well as the party, which I feel is truly more responsible for racial injustice. Now I'm ready to get into something very polarizing, which I'm really looking forward to discussing in my next few vlogs. And that, of course, is crime, race, and police brutality. We are at the end of summer 2021 now, and it has been a very interesting last 15 months since Memorial Day weekend 2020. First with George Floyd in Minneapolis, and then only 2 weeks later, Rayshard Brooks in my hometown of Atlanta. And then, of course, there was Jacob Blake, and this year, Daunte Wright back in Minneapolis. So, here's how I'm going to start off. I'm going to teach you something that can save your life one day. It's just a little bit more complicated than don't drive drunk and don't get into a vehicle with a drunk driver. Okay? I don't know how many of you were taught this, but I can tell you, before either of my parents told me that there was no Santa Claus, before they told me about the birds and the bees, my father told me exactly what you do if you are ever stopped by a police officer and subsequently arrested. I know I was also tested on this when I was getting my learner's permit when I was in high school. Okay? And I am willing to say, I will bet that there is not a single attorney in this country, no matter how far to the right or to the left they may be, man or woman, any race, whether they are in their first or their 41st year of practicing law, who will tell you that anything I'm about to say right here, right now, is wrong. So, if you are driving and a cop starts flashing their lights right behind you, it means pull over as soon as possible. Turn off your engine, get your license and registration out, be ready to show it, roll down your window, keep your hands in plain sight. Put them in your lap, put them on the wheel, do not make any sudden movements, be respectful, be courteous, and you will be treated likewise. At the same time, you have rights at that particular moment. And your first and foremost right then and there is, you do not have to agree to a search of your vehicle. If for any reason you are placed under arrest, you comply. And you shut up. You have the right to remain silent, and you have the right to contact an attorney. You say nothing from that point forward once you are placed under arrest, except for, I want to speak to my attorney. That is how you take command of the situation, and you let the cop know that you are in charge. You know your rights, and they are not going to get anything out of you. Daunte Wright, Jacob Blake, Rayshard Brooks, George Floyd, Eric Gardner, and Mike Brown Jr., just to name a few, failed to conduct themselves as such when cops attempted to arrest them. One thing led to another, 5 out of 6 of them dying as a result, the lone survivor left paralyzed. If they had done everything I had described above, there would have been a much better outcome. You are not going to convince me otherwise. I have dealt with cops in the past who are assholes. Yes, there are racist police who have always existed and they always will exist. There are racists and bigots that come in all colors and careers, including clergy and professional athletes. But police, racist or not, are not responsible for all the children in the crime-infested inner cities who do not have fathers raising them. The police did not cause that, nor are they to be blamed for the underperforming inner city schools that may have as high as a 50% dropout rate. But still, local police and school resource officers are sworn to protect the people there and risk their lives more than most people in their careers every day. If you don't like actual facts and statistics, you might not want to watch this any further. For all the black, left-leaning race hustlers out there who like to write off the Larry Elders and the Candace Owens and the Tim Scotts of your race, sellouts, self-loathers, Uncle Toms, etc., there is one thing that I never hear you have the ability to tell them, and that is that they are wrong when they present such information I'm about to show. For starters, don't call me a racist for addressing topics Barack Obama himself has been critical of. Or better yet, the Wayans brothers can outright make a mockery out of. Because to say that because I'm white, I'm not allowed to say something, that is racist. With regards to the Wayans brothers, case in point, the opening scene of one of their movies.
Yo, I'm finna to tell you how it is in the hood. See, cause in the hood, everybody's a target.
Nah, I ain't like that. I'm gonna tell you the real deal what it goes on in the hood. See, in the hood, most of us won't reach the age of 21.
Happy birthday, homie.
For me?
Yeah. Happy birthday, homeboy.
For me?
Yeah. Make a wish.
Every year, almost half of all homicides in this country, somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000 of them, are black-on-black murders. Consistently, over 90% of black murder victims are murdered by other black perpetrators. Black perpetrators also commit no less than 2/3 of all the armed robberies in this country. Juvenile delinquency, most tragic of which are homicides committed by teenagers, is also highly skewed towards the urban black population. Homicide is the leading cause of non-medical related deaths among black children each year. For all other races in this country, it's car accidents. But black minors, whether they are intentionally slain or killed by a stray bullet passing by the wrong place at the wrong time, whether it's a drug deal or an armed robbery gone bad, are 18 times more likely to be victims of homicide than any other children. Has the media extensively covered any unsolved homicides of black children in this country this past year to the extent that it has? George Floyd, Jacob Blake, or Breonna Taylor? I think not. When it comes to the debate about guns, clearly African Americans are the #1 victims and perpetrators of gun violence every single year. No matter how many black people murder other black people in the inner city each year, guns are deemed the problem. The same goes whenever there is a mass shooting, from Columbine to Virginia Tech to Sandy Hook or Parkland, Florida. Do you also notice how in the aftermath of such tragedies, there is always room to blame the police, that there were red flags beforehand and they didn't act enough, possibly preventing or the tragedy altogether, or at least saving lives in the process, respectively. Yet, whenever a cop shoots and kills someone, if that person is black and the cop is anything but, they twist and turn the narrative around and say the gun doesn't kill. In a very vile double standard, it's always the cop that pulled the trigger. It's not the gun that kills. In New York, our nation's largest city, blacks make up just under a quarter of the population, but are almost 3/4 of the casualties of gun violence every single year. In 2016, President Barack Obama's proudly adopted hometown of Chicago, murder capital USA, had about 4,300 casualties of gun violence, almost all black. In 2019, the Chicago PD reported 506 murders. In any given year, almost 10% of black-on-black homicides happen in Chicago alone. 1 month into his second term, Obama publicly stated during a visit to his hometown that 65 of the city's 443 murder victims in 2012 were no more than 18.
Last year, there were 443 murders with a firearm on the streets of this city. And 65 of those victims were 18 and under. So that's the equivalent of a new town every 4 months.
In other words, 10 to 15% of those murdered in Chicago each and every year are children. Does the truth matter? Do any of these black lives I have mentioned above matter? Is maintaining peace and order and ensuring safety within a community part of what police are meant to do? Do police have an obligation to go where the crime is and where the 911 calls come from every day? Do these numbers and statistics clearly illustrate where police, especially in urban jurisdictions, are needed most? If you were living under such circumstances, would you want your children as safe as possible? If cops stopped patrolling these areas where children are at an 18 times higher risk of being shot, people would be yelling and screaming, police aren't doing their job well enough in certain communities. They'd ask, why do EMTs take significantly more time to arrive, given the violence within these communities, while they can be counted on in much better non-black neighborhoods? And that would be deemed systemic racism. Isn't that what they said in 1964 when Cheney, Goodman, and Schwerner were abducted and murdered by the KKK in Mississippi? If you have ever seen Mississippi Burning, which was centered around this federal investigation, this is what it looked like when police didn't care about certain people within their jurisdiction, and citizens were free to terrorize others without fear of prosecution. In those days, police were branded systemically racist for blatantly ignoring the protection of the black community. So it's a no-win situation. The difference now, though, is that racial lines in urban settings between perpetrators and victims are non-existent. It is just about all black-on-black crime. But now, police are systemically called racist for over-policing these areas. Here's some other information that might be worth knowing. In some jurisdictions, the likelihood a police officer will be killed by a black perpetrator is 18.5 times more likely than the cop will kill an unarmed black citizen. By the way, unarmed is a misleading term in a lot of ways because it doesn't mean not dangerous. Rodney King might have been unarmed in 1991 as he drunkenly fled the LAPD going 90 to 100 miles an hour in residential areas moments before his arrest. Mike Brown Jr. might have been unarmed, but that didn't stop him from trying to take an officer's gun after he robbed a gas station. Police, who were doing their jobs at the time, stood a major chance of being seriously injured at the very least. In 2019, the FBI reports that there were 49 police officers, including 4 black ones, shot and killed in the line of duty. That is just short of 1 each week. Of these 49 police slayings, 15 of them were killed by black perpetrators. The disproportionate amount of violent crime black perpetrators commit each year extends to murdering police in the line of duty. Black perpetrators shot and killed 30% of all police killed in the line of duty in 2019. By the way, can you name any of these 15 cops or the black perpetrators who murdered them? Did any of them get a nationally televised funeral and mourning like George Floyd did last year or Mike Brown Jr. did back in 2014? To be continued. I'm Eric Cochran. Thanks for watching. As Larry Elder says,